Season 2 of Strange New Worlds kicks off with some Cylon raiders showing up. Enterprise is in dock at Starbase 1 while Pike is trying to think of how to help Number 1 with her number one problem, being locked up because of her genetic augmentations. Well, specifically lying about it, but since the truth would prohibit her from joining Starfleet, it was either lie or give up her dream. Shockingly, she chose the former. The lawyer who can best handle this isn't picking up the phone for Una, so Pike says he'll go there in person to try to get her on board. It'll require taking a shuttle, though, since the Enterprise is undergoing maintenance, so that means that with no Una, who's in jail, no La'an, who's on leave, and no Hemmer, who's dead, command falls to Spock, who is here. Well, Spock isn't terribly pleased, and very quickly is diagnosed with stress by Dr. Mabenga, likely stemming from the fact he dropped his emotional blocks when he fought the Gorn and can't seem to put them back, like putting everything back in its original packaging. To help cope, Dr. Mabenga gives him the Vulcan loot that he was seen using in the original series, to help cope with his emotions, such as the one when Nurse Chapel shows up. She's actually here to tell Mabenga about her character arc for the season, to join an expedition in archaeological medicine. And speaking of work, everyone on the bridge is busy pissing where their territory is whenever one of the engineers tries to do something. Most egregiously Uhura, who doesn't want the comm system to be rebooted until the backup is brought online in case they get a distress signal while in space dock.
And it's a distress signal.
Even a broken clock is right twice a day. Metaphor really needs some updating. All the broken clocks in my house are just wrong, especially the one that says it's H-o'clock. Anyway, the distress signal is from La'an, who's on the edge of Klingon space, and Admiral April wants nothing to do with it. But Spock thinks, beyond helping La'an, this is necessary because the warning sounds like it's not, "I'm in trouble," but "all of us are in trouble." Except the system, Kojitar 4 is a mining colony jointly held by the Klingons. The Federation showing up when it's not their turn would be considered an act of war. So you're not going. Go play your harp or something. Well, Spock gathers the bridge and medical officers, since that's pretty much all that he's got right now. And while Uhura says the Admiral's fear of a deception is unwarranted, the feeling is that this is a trick and going against the Admiral would be very bad for them. And we fought an army of future robots, so we know what bad looks like. But Spock believes La'an sent this, and that her concerns are genuine, and that if the Admiral won't authorize this, they'll have to steal the Enterprise to do it anyway. Better to ask forgiveness than to seek permission. Which, okay, they did seek and didn't get. Man, all my aphorisms suck today. What's with me? After the titles, a coolant leak is set off in the warp core, so everyone is supposed to run. However, Pelia, who's overseeing all of this refitting, just heads to the bridge with the attitude of someone pretending they're looking for someone whose feet and legs are quite clearly visible beneath the curtain they're hiding behind. She's seen the ruse for what it is, that someone is faking a warp core breach, but she knows from experience that a Vulcan wouldn't do something like this unless there was a damn good reason to. So she's going to help, because it's probably the right thing, and plus it's probably going to be fun. So, thanks to her advice on how to properly fake it, they're released to fly the ship away, and Pelia is made their chief engineer. She's also revealed to be a Lanthanite, and thus lives for a long, long time. She's played by the great Carol Kane, 71 years young here, and as you can expect as someone who can go toe-to-toe with Billy Crystal as Miracle Max in The Princess Bride, she knows how to do a lot with just a little. So, having now stolen their ship, the Enterprise is free to fly off to Kojitar 4, which very much looks like the cutscene that plays in a space game when you arrive on a new planet. This is where La'an is playing a drinking game against a Klingon. That's Klingon for a very good year. She wins the game, refusing money because she wants a meeting with some Klingons as her prize. Plus, I'm fairly certain she just tried to pay the debt with a pile of large washers. Dr. Mabenga subtly flags her, and she explains the problem. When the war came, this place, which is a dilithium source, remember, was making money hand over fist. Then peace arrives, and all of a sudden the demand drops, and we're back to having to work for a living. So the answer is obvious. Start the war up all over again. After all, who's going to stop the Federation, the Klingons, once they start at it again, huh? Some highly evolved pacifists or something? I'd like to see them try. There was an explosion at the mine recently, and the radiation suggests a photon torpedo detonation. Dr. Mabenga had a lot of experience treating various injuries during the war. They head over and find the kid from the Gorn shop for a brief reunion before treating one of her moms for the genetic damage from the radiation. Unfortunately, that gets them noticed, and bad guys take them prisoner and into the mines, where there's a Federation ship sitting there. Always in the last place you look. Meanwhile, La'an negotiates for the sale of Starfleet phasers to the Klingons, and when things get ugly, she pulls the old Bosch thermal detonator from Return of the Jedi on him, and he buys it, being bluffed by her garage door opener or whatever it is she's using. While they look for more evidence, Mabenga and Chapel are treating those injured by the radiation, including a mouthy Klingon who doesn't believe Mabenga was at Jadala, on the ground of, and I don't like your face either. When they're done dealing with this model patient, Mabenga and Chapel piece together what's going on. The reason they want to rebuild this ship is to use it to attack the Klingons. Once you do that, you just let nature take its course. So they go for an unnatural response. That's good green stuff. Well, they've injected themselves with that shit that was used to make Captain America and proceed to beat the crap out of any Klingons nearby and getting one to spill what they're up against and where the transponder is. Mabenga reprograms it to broadcast a shortened message instead of its identity like it's supposed to. They work on making their escape, but their cans of spinach are starting to run out. They're going to need to hope the plan works and that they can find the exit sign. In orbit, a Klingon battlecruiser arrives, so the Enterprise is hiding in some debris to look like it's a piece of space junk. And on the planet,
it must be something that's...
looks like the starship eggs are hatching. The ship's transponder lets Enterprise know enough. Destroy this ship. So they go chasing after it, trying to hunt that little bastard down, before the Klingons notice and faster than you can sing Johnny Comes Marching Home while riding an A-bomb, they'd destroy it and start another war. Speaking of bad ideas, there's parts of one spaceship, which is not enough when you have Mabenga and Chapel, who both need things like breathing and not swelling up like the Michelin Man. But while this is only virtually certain death, staying aboard is just plain certain death, so they go with Operation Bad Idea and fly out into space. Fortunately, that was when Spock finally ordered the Enterprise to fire, having tried to give them plenty of time. Afterwards, they pick up the EVA beacon and beam the two popsicle knots aboard. Spock is quite worked up at the state of Chapel, but she makes it, so that just leaves the Klingons. They are none too happy, convinced the Federation realized that they couldn't win this fight and so destroyed one of their ships as a ruse to cover it up. Spock thus makes an offer to look the commander in the eye over a barrel of blood wine. And that goes down real well, solving the diplomatic crisis the way all diplomatic crises should, getting shit-faced. Spock talks to Pelia afterwards, who admits to her species and that she revealed herself to Spock's mother, actually. But what she really wants to say is that the reason she helped them most of all is that when you live as long as her kind do, the problem is boredom. And the Enterprise is anything but boring. Anything can happen, from turning into a fairy tale kingdom to breaking out in a musical number. It's a novel situation every week. So she's going to stick around for a while. After the Gorn survivors goodbye, Spock talks to Admiral April, who is not happy. But seeing as how after all that Klingon blood wine, Spock looks like something the cat would refuse to drag in, and that it did avert the war, April looks the other way this time. But what's really bothering Spock is how Chapel looks.
She'll be fine. I'm not.
Can someone get that damn cat to stop stomping around here? But while we see Spock playing his Vulcan lute, we learn why April was inclined to cut Spock some slack. Because there's a Gorn attack ship on the move, and a hint that they may be considering war. Time to stock up on bamboo and gunpowder. Why is this the first episode of the season when people are no doubt wanting to resolve the cliffhanger of number 1 being arrested? Because La'an needs to be part of that, so we need to get her back first. And because that needs to be first out of the gate, the episode then has to make up for delaying the cliffhanger resolution. Hence, La'an's return requires a story that's going to feel that it's worth it. So we get the first Strange New World Klingons, orbital flying excitement, Spock drinking blood wine, putting the medical staff into the Matrix, stealing the ship, and getting into a fight with one of our own kit-bash ships. And of course, giving us Carol Kane. I've heard a theory that I love, which is that Pelia and Latka's wife on Taxi are the same person because of the accent, so Taxi can be thought of as a Star Trek prequel. Well, anyway, is this a great episode? I wouldn't go that far, but it's definitely a good one, and sets things up for Una's situation, which we'll get into in our next look at Strange New Worlds.
All hail the Overlord! All hail the Overlord!
Foolish, Judge. Indeed,